All right, good morning, Rance. We've got
Good
Rance
morning.
Frye here with us today to talk about the music and mentorship program. So, Rance, do you want to just do a quick introduction of yourself, your background, what brought you to SAF, anything to just kick us off here today?
Absolutely. No, thank you for having me. Thank you for talking about music and mentoring. We're very proud of it here at Middle Tennessee SAF. Myself, I'm a forester. Graduated from University of Tennessee back in the early '90s. We'll leave the specific dates out. And I've been involved with SAF since '89.
Mhm.
And went to my first national convention in '91 in San Francisco. Look back on that with fond memories. I believe the next year was in Richmond, Virginia. So a couple of SAF meetings as a student,
Mhm.
and then I went off into what I would call a standard procurement career for a while. Went into the woods, bought timber, managed tree planting, harvesting, little bit standard procurement. From there, went into manufacturing, lumber and manufacturing. I've had a great career using my forestry background. During my career, I did notice over time a kind of a separation of the industry from schools, from the educational system. As the standard large corporation, when I say standard, when the industrial corporations began to split apart when in the age of the TIMO rose in the '90s and in the 2000s, there was not as much recruitment in the schools, just due to this, due to the way things fragmented. So, we kind of watched that from afar. And the music and mentoring arose from a student, a nephew of mine, went to school, and I kept saying, "Hey, Uncle Rance, look forward to being a forester, look forward to getting to the woods." And I kept saying, "Hey, give me a call. We'll get you some internships, we'll get you a job." And like many students, he came all the way through school and realized he was about to graduate and called and said, "I need a job."
Yeah.
So I said, "That's fine." I started connecting him with people and put him in touch with some folks, found him a job, got him into the industry. And once we got him into the industry, a friend of mine had hired him and said, "Hey, we've got some issues." I'm like, "What do you mean?" He said, "He doesn't have all of the education that I thought he had." And I said, "Well, you didn't look at his transcripts." He says, "No." He said he was a forester, had a degree from X, so I just hired him. And as we kind of looked into the situation and questioned him, he said, "Well, no, I didn't know I needed to take that class. I didn't know I should have done X." And so that began a conversation with the school. The professors at the school said, "Well, we no longer have a lot of contact with professionals aside from academics, so we didn't know that was an important class, an important part of their education today."
Mhm.
Um, and so that began this. And so at an SAF meeting, winter meeting, I was ranting about this particular situation over a beverage. And at the time, David Hudnall, who was with Louisiana Pacific, said, "Well, shut up and do something about it." So, all right. And thus, music and mentoring was born. LP, he agreed with LP to host the program in Nashville. They had a wonderful headquarters there. They also, at the time, had a skybox in the Titan Stadium. And all this is within walking distance of music venues in town. So
Mhm.
in order to give the event some buzz, we created the music and mentoring. And so the first year we started with one school. We started with Swanee, University of the South. That went very well. The next year we added University of Tennessee in Kentucky, and eventually we added in Berea College.
Mhm.
And so we expanded as we went as we grew, and we learned a lot about how to do it and how not to do it. So I've rambled a moment. If that's I
Yeah,
can
yeah, that's
if
great.
you have specific questions.
Sure, yeah. I mean, I'm interested in hearing you kind of touched on, the problem that you saw that needed to be solved. So maybe you could talk us through what the event looks like on kind of a regular, this is an annual event, I believe. And
It is
so
correct. It is. We now
together,
10
yeah.
years. So as we looked at the very first music and mentoring ended up being a lecture series.
Mhm.
So I brought in, having heard from the students, I polled many students, went to the school, told the students, and I talked to the industry people who were hiring students and listened
Mhm.
to the complaints that both were having and realized that there were, industry changes, the market changes,
Sure.
and the schools were doing what they thought was right, but there were some changes in the marketplace that necessitated some faster modifications by the schools. And so what I did was we decided we needed to bring in a spectrum of professionals. So we brought in government employees from state and federal. We brought in industry employees. So we had someone from procurement from a sawmill. We had someone in procurement from a large pulp mill. We had consultants. We brought in, so we had a real spectrum of professionals. And again, the first time I had each of the professionals give a 30-minute presentation and it ended up being several hours of lectures, which put everybody to sleep. Uh, but we had some scheduled times for talking and congregating. And then we also had, and I didn't know how this would work, we walked from place to place. And so we would walk from the office to the stadium, from the stadium to the downtown venue to listen to music and have dinner. And we
Mhm.
made this a full afternoon event. The idea was it needed a big enough event to really have substance, but not something you had to go travel multiple days for, like a convention.
Yep.
And so, in retrospect, we called everyone. I sent out some questionnaires, and the students and the professionals both agreed that there was too much lecture. That wasn't very good. And that the most important thing was the unstructured time, the time they had available to meet. And so as we have gone every year, we have found that we have to have a certain amount of structured time. We want to get our CFEs, and we want a presentation atmosphere in the sense that we can have the professionals get up and give some information on what they do and what the industry meaning government or industry, and
Right.
what they do as professionals. And so we have kind of slowly worked into a balance where we now have a panel discussion that has the representative group of professionals on the panel, and but the students are able, we kind of seed the audience with questions from the professionals, and we work very hard to have a 1-to-1 ratio. So we have at
Mhm.
least one professional for every student, more if we can, but at least one. That
Mhm.
way, we never have a couple of students standing around with no one to talk to.
Yeah.
And um, as I said, the unstructured time has proven to be very valuable. Because now, once the professionals have said, "Hey, I'm Rance Frye. I own my own timber procurement company, and I export logs." That doesn't interest all of the students, but it'll interest a couple. And so
Mhm.
now the students can go, "Oh, that's the person I want to talk to."
Right.
Like at the last meeting, we had one of the ladies who was from the Division of Forestry, and she was a burn boss. And immediately, I was watching the audience, and as she said she was a burn boss, I could see several people, their eyes would light up and go, "That's the one I want to talk to."
Yeah.
And so after the presentation, you could watch them immediately beeline their way to her and start asking her, "Hey, let's get over here by ourselves and let me pick your brain." Um, so we have found a a program that really seems to fit better, and we've modified that over time. We have also found that we can spend a lot more money on food than we need to.
Mhm.
One year we had a food bill for for almost $3,000. Nashville is extremely expensive. Um, we now have found how to do that for less than $1,000, and go to a live music venue where it may be hard to hear every word, but it's the atmosphere, and it's a memorable event. In 2020, I was in Washington State doing a FSC forest audit. And as I'm walking out into Washington DNR, as I was walking out into a clear cut with a group, I heard a voice behind me go, hey, you're that mentoring dude." I was like, "What?" And as I turned around, there was one of the students from 2015
Oh,
that
wow.
was out there working. And he was like, "Man, that was awesome. I really appreciated that." And it was, so I'm that,
Mhm.
that day I was the mentoring dude. And if that's all I achieve, I'm happy, I suppose. Um, but the idea being is they look back on their career, they're like, that was a pivotal moment in understanding the link between school and professionalism.
Sure.
And another part of what we've done that I didn't foresee in the beginning is the SAF. We've had a hard time the recruitment issue,
Yeah.
carrying students from school into the profession. And there's a lot of reasons for that. But one of the reasons was they never, as students, as early professionals, you may not understand the importance of the network.
Hmm.
And and so with music and mentoring, we're able to really emphasize that network. And as the students, they're like, oh, and we talk about it specifically now in the meeting about their network and about the people who are here. It's like you will see these people again in your
Yeah.
career. We're not a big industry. So, shake hands, meet people, and know that everybody who's here is a professional is here because we care and because we want to see you succeed. So don't hesitate to reach out. That's why we give everybody a whole list of the contacts. Say, anybody on here is agreed for their contacts to be available. So please reach out. And so that has been just a wonderful recruitment tool for SAF. We've had a couple who've stayed in Tennessee who've said, "Oh yeah, I wouldn't miss it," and they keep paying their SAF dues. Um,
Hmm.
so we find that important. Another part of that would be where we have the professionals have actually come to me later and said, "Hey, I'm old and gray, like some of us, and I'm on the twilight of my career, and I really didn't think much about what was going on, but I'm real excited about these young people that are coming in." They hadn't talked to them. They're like, "Man, there's a good group of people coming into the profession," and so we've been able to get the two sides to kind of reach together.
Yeah.
Um, so now when we're at a winter meeting, I'll see the professionals talking to the students more than we would have, say, 10 or 15 years ago. So it's a good way to mix the generations and help us understand the commonalities.
Sure. Yeah. So you mentioned that there was a event in 2015. So how long has this been going on? How
So
many
we started in
events?
the first year was 2015,
2015. Okay.
and aside from COVID, which messed up everything,
Sure.
so we've had 8 music and mentorings at this point.
Very
So we lost a year. We did it the next year, and then the following year, LP did some changes, and we lost a year in there. But yeah, we've had 8, and again, every year we dial it in a little better to the point that I think now we have a real solid program. Each year we allow the professionals to kind of pick a hot topic. When we're planning, say, like we've had carbon as a topic, we've had reforestation, different things. Last year we
Mhm.
just did hot job markets. It's like, in this changing environment right now, what are the hot job markets for forestry?
Yeah.
Because they are not what they were. And the reasons the professionals pick that is at least by the decade, if not more often, and it speeds up, the hot job markets change. The job market that I came into in 1992 is very different now. Many of the companies that are hiring no longer exist. So, we wanted to kind of open that up that way. And we have been better now too at bringing in an even broader spectrum of forest professionals. So last year, we include the NGOs like the Nature Conservancy, the Wild Turkey Federation, all who
Mhm.
hire foresters. We've had stave companies, very specific things like the barrel making people. They're looking for wood technologists, and so we've gone all the way down the rabbit hole that we can, and even brought in some international folks.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah.
Is there anything in particular that surprised you learning up to this first event or over the 8 years that you've been doing it? Is there
Um,
anything that, was unexpected or made a
Well,
difference?
I think I mentioned one thing that was the fact that the the older professionals, and I'll say old as a relative term, but the professionals who've been out of school for 10 or more years, many I've had, like I said, more than one. It's been many that have come to me and said, "Man, it has reinvigorated them for SAF and for their career to get to know the younger professionals coming in." It's not just them leaving a career. It's like, "Oh, hey, I need to help somebody in this." I need to be a mentor. And so I was surprised how quickly that took. Also, I've been surprised by how much, because when you go to an SAF function or any function, everybody knows what networking time is. And, you've got some drinks sitting around and you have a beer and you talk. What I was surprised by was the fact that the walking, when we get out and physically walk from place to place, that has been that. Because one year we said, well, we're not going to do that. We'll just stay put. And everybody revolted. They're like, no, no, we want to walk. We want to go from place A to place B. And as we talk to folks, I think part of that is just most of us as foresters are active people. And
Yeah.
it's part of who we are, what we like to do. Part of it too is it segregates everybody out a little bit. You can feel
Mhm.
more intimate in that there's not people standing all around you. And
Right.
so you feel a little more one. If you found somebody that you were particularly interested in to speak with, um, they feel more open. The students have told me they feel like they can be more open because they're not in a giant group of people at that point. And so our line stretches out for a mile walking, but we set it up so that when we leave, we have a cocktail hour before, and so there's
Mhm.
plenty of time for just people to wander around and be loose with their time prior to the food being served. So I was really surprised by how much that was valued by
Yeah.
everyone.
And I mean, I think that's such a unique element of the event too, is the
Yeah,
moving from point A to point B and just giving
right.
so many different opportunities
Yeah.
to really connect with people. Do you think there's anything else that's specific to this event that you found makes it successful?
Um, yes, I think that once the first year I did not, first and second year, I'll say, I didn't explain real well to the professionals or the students kind of what they were doing. This is a
Mhm.
mentoring event, everybody show up.
Yeah.
And a lot of folks out of the goodness of their heart did. But by the third year, I had figured out that everyone needs to have some prompts. And so prior to the event, I make sure I send out either an email to everyone or a phone call to everyone who's planning on coming. And we do RSVPs. If somebody shows up unannounced, that's fine. But if I'm going to have 30 professionals, I want most of them to be on board and
Yeah.
prompt. And so when when turn that phone off, when they show up, um, I want them to understand exactly what the point of what we're doing is. They need to
Mhm.
understand, okay, here are the type of students who are coming. In each school will send us a list ahead of time. We've also learned to focus on the juniors and sophomores.
Yeah.
Because by junior year, you really know if you want to be a forester or not. And in some sense, you think, well, I really like mapping, or I really like hydrology, or I want to be in procurement. You have some notion. And that
Yeah.
way you can go and talk to those people and go, oh, that sounds great. Or, I don't think I want to do what you do. Let's talk about that. So I make sure now that I prompt everyone. And like with the students, I send out a letter to the schools to give to the students that explains very carefully, this is not a technical job interview, but this is an opportunity for you to practice your soft skills. You need to learn how to introduce yourself to professionals. You need to learn, how to dress business casual kind of a thing.
Yeah.
Be yourself. But people, these professionals are taking time from their schedule to be a part of this. Show respect in that. Likewise with the professionals, if they understand how the venue is how the venue how the event is going to go, they can prepare themselves to be more ready for it, just like any process. So we prompt everyone. That has made the participation much more focused and I think better for that.
Yeah, that's awesome. And is there any specific direction that you see this going in the future? Any growth opportunities that you
National,
see coming up?
national.
National?
I want
Yeah.
to go national. So we're working right now with the New England SAF.
Oh, great.
Hopefully to put on one in New England this coming
Mhm.
year. I'm going to kind of work as a board member for them so we're getting that started. So they're going to be putting in for a grant, an SAF grant, and that's one
Mhm.
of the things we've done. Well, so I'll finish this. So with the New England SAF, now that we have a program that kind of fits, you know, we want to see that see them do it. I've talked to some other, like Florida has talked about doing it. Um, and I would love to see out of this, out of this communication,
Yeah.
see that kind of go on out to the broader society.
Yeah, that's great. And so for those that you think may be interested in replicating this, is there any particular advice you would give about how to set it up, how to proceed, how
Give
to
me a
prep
call. I
people?
will download everything I have. Um, and I, seriously, I'm happy to help. I mean, as part of, being a member of the society, happy to share what has worked, what hasn't worked. I'll give you itineraries. Part of what has been very successful in the beginning, LP and the company I worked with at the time, Dow Corning, foot the bill for the first 2 years, or the first year. The second and third year, we began pulling in more and more people. Panther Creek Forestry, and like last year, the FSC group, so Forest Stewardship, put in some money. So every year we've kind of expanded our sponsors, and so the sponsorship also helps us in that it pulls the industry. And again, industry is an inclusive term, academia. It's just everybody in forestry.
Yeah.
Um, and the schools have been very good to participate and promote it internally. So yeah, we definitely want to see it go through the organization. Now that we have something I think that is a promotable product,
Yeah,
first couple
sure.
of years was, I won't say disastrous, but it was wonderful. It just wasn't as successful as it could have been.
Needed some time to workshop it and everything.
Right, absolutely. We have workshopped it very well.
Yeah, that's great. Is there anything else you feel you want to share for people who are interested in doing something like this, or any final thoughts that we haven't
So
covered?
one of the things, yes, I'll say that one of the things that I think is important. One year we during COVID in particular, coming out of COVID, we 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 ran the idea about doing it at a school, at one of the schools, and the students shot that down. They're like, we're at a school every day, and we really don't want to go to one more event at school. And so while it may be somewhat cumbersome to put together an event like this, part of that is the appeal in
Mhm.
that it is a special event. It's something that people look back on now and go, hey, you're that mentoring guy. You
Yeah.
know, it stands out in your memory because of the effort it took. And
Mhm.
so the music part was part of that originally was like, well, it needs to be more than just people showing up to talk.
Yeah.
What can we do to make it fun? And so in Nashville with the Music City, that makes it easy. Now, in another event, so that's what like New England's is looking for a place where, and it may be, some sort of 4-H campground where everybody can get together, where we can have, cornhole. I don't know. I mean, some sort of bonding, activity where you can move around and talk.
Yeah.
And so everybody needs to put their own flavor to it. The music part just particularly worked for us due to what we have here in Nashville. Um, but yeah, use what you have. Make it. I mean, sell Kismet. Keep it simple. Make it fun, right? And so I that has really worked in my career, and so it seems to work for mentoring as well.
Yeah, that's wonderful. All right. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to meet with me today. I'm super excited
Absolutely,
to share this with our members. And I'll just note that people can reach out either to me or to you if they have any interest in replicating it, and we can get everything set up. So thank you
absolutely.
so much again.
Yes, ma'am. Wonderful.